$80 billion. That is global spending on sovereign cloud infrastructure in 2026, according to Gartner, a 35.6% increase from the year before. And here's the number that should make every Western cloud executive nervous. China alone accounts for $47 billion of that $80 billion. China is building its own cloud, and it's dragging every country in Asia into a choice about whose cloud their data lives on.
Welcome back to Asia Tech Macro. I'm Maya, and today we're diving into the battle for Asia's cloud market, a war being fought with data centers, AI models, and data sovereignty laws. Alibaba committed $52 billion to AI and cloud infrastructure over 3 years, the largest private computing project in Chinese history. AWS has pledged $12.7 billion in India, $6 billion in Malaysia, and $5 billion in Thailand. Google is investing billions across Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia. Microsoft committed $3 billion in India and $1.7 billion in Indonesia. The hyperscalers are in an arms race to lock in Asia's enterprise customers before data localization rules make switching impossible.
Let me frame the competitive landscape because it's structurally different from any other market. Globally, AWS leads with about 32% market share. Microsoft Azure is at 23%, and Google Cloud is at 11%. But in Asia, there are really two separate markets operating under completely different rules.
Two markets?
Market one is China, where Western cloud providers essentially don't exist. Alibaba Cloud holds 36% of the Chinese cloud market. Huawei Cloud is at 19%, Tencent Cloud at 16%, and Baidu AI Cloud at 9%. Together, these four Chinese companies control 80% of cloud spending in what is now the world's second-largest cloud market. AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud don't even make the top 5 in China.
And market two?
Market 2 is the rest of Asia-Pacific, where the Western hyperscalers dominate, but competition from Chinese providers is intensifying, especially in Southeast Asia. AWS leads with roughly 33% share in APAC excluding China, followed by Azure and Google Cloud. But Alibaba Cloud is ranked 4th in Southeast Asia and growing aggressively. The battle line runs through Singapore, Jakarta, Bangkok, and Kuala Lumpur.
Walk us through Alibaba's $52 billion investment, because the scale is remarkable.
Alibaba Group committed at least 380 billion yuan, roughly $52.4 billion, to cloud and AI infrastructure over 3 years. To put that in context, this exceeds Alibaba's total spending on AI infrastructure over the entire previous decade. The investment covers new data centers, GPU clusters for AI training and inference, and expansion of Alibaba Cloud's global network. They currently operate 92 availability zones across 29 regions globally, with recent additions in Mexico and Thailand. They've launched a 3rd data center in Malaysia and announced a 2nd in the Philippines.
And the revenue performance?
Alibaba Cloud reported 13% year-over-year revenue growth in the December quarter, reaching 31.7 billion yuan. But the real story is the AI segment, which has delivered triple-digit growth for 6 consecutive quarters. The AI product revenue is what's driving the investment thesis. Alibaba isn't just building cloud infrastructure, it's building the platform for Chinese AI to scale across Asia.
Let's dig into the Western hyperscaler response, because the investment numbers are equally massive. AWS alone has committed over $23 billion across India, Malaysia, and Thailand. What's driving this spending spree?
Two forces are converging. First, the AI infrastructure build-out requires local compute capacity. When a Japanese bank wants to run AI models on sensitive customer data, that data needs to stay in Japan. When an Indonesian government ministry deploys AI for public services, the compute has to be in Indonesia. The AI boom is fundamentally a local infrastructure story, not a centralized one. Second, data localization regulations are spreading rapidly across Asia. Countries like India, Indonesia, Malaysia, and China have enacted laws requiring data from critical sectors, financial services, healthcare, government, to be processed within national borders.
So every country becomes its own cloud market?
That's the trajectory, and it creates a massive advantage for whoever builds the local data centers first. Once a government agency or major bank is running on AWS in Jakarta, the switching costs are enormous. You'd need to migrate petabytes of data, retrain AI models on new infrastructure, and recertify compliance. The hyperscalers know this, which is why they're racing to build in every Asian market simultaneously.
Let me lay out the specific commitments, because the country-by-country picture tells the story. AWS has pledged $12.7 billion in India by 2030, $6 billion in Malaysia, and $5 billion in Thailand. They just launched a new infrastructure region in APAC. Google has committed $1 billion in Thailand for data centers in Bangkok and Chonburi, plus $2 billion for a hyperscale facility and new cloud region in Malaysia. Microsoft announced $3 billion for Azure and AI in India and $1.7 billion in Indonesia.
And the pattern is consistent. Every hyperscaler is investing in the same 5 markets: India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Japan. These are the countries where cloud adoption is accelerating fastest, where AI demand is surging, and where data localization regulations create moats for whoever builds first.
Now, let's bring Alibaba Cloud into the competitive picture. How does Alibaba's strategy differ from the Western players?
3 key differentiators. First, pricing. Alibaba Cloud has historically been 20 to 40% cheaper than AWS for comparable services in Southeast Asia. For price-sensitive markets like Indonesia and Thailand, where enterprise IT budgets are smaller than in Japan or Australia, this matters enormously.
20 to 40% cheaper. That's the same pricing playbook we've seen in Chinese hardware, EVs, and robotaxis.
Exactly the same pattern. Use supply chain advantages and willingness to accept lower margins to undercut Western competitors on price. Second, Alibaba brings an AI model ecosystem. Their Qwen large language model family became the most downloaded on Hugging Face in late 2025, overtaking Meta's Llama. This means developers who build on Alibaba Cloud get native access to leading Chinese AI models at lower cost than OpenAI or Google's offerings. For Asian companies that don't need English-first AI, but rather Chinese, Bahasa, Thai, or Vietnamese language capabilities, Alibaba's models are often better suited. And third, Alibaba has deep integration with the Chinese commerce ecosystem. For any Asian business that trades with China, sells to Chinese tourists, or operates in Chinese-speaking markets, Alibaba Cloud offers integration with Alibaba's e-commerce, logistics, and payment platforms that no Western provider can match.
So Alibaba is competing on price, AI models, and ecosystem integration. That's a compelling package for Southeast Asian businesses.
The concern from a Western perspective is that Alibaba Cloud expansion follows the broader pattern of Chinese technology infrastructure deployment. We discussed this in our undersea cable episode. Chinese-built digital infrastructure creates dependencies that have geopolitical implications. When a government puts its data on Alibaba Cloud, it's trusting a Chinese company with sovereign data, and that comes with the same debates we've seen around Huawei 5G.
Contrarian corner. The consensus view is that the cloud war in Asia is a straight fight between Western hyperscalers and Alibaba Cloud, with data localization forcing both sides to build local infrastructure. Alex, what's the angle nobody's talking about?
The contrarian thesis is that the real winner of the Asian cloud war might not be any of the global players. It might be the local cloud providers that are emerging in almost every Asian market, powered by sovereign AI mandates and government procurement preferences.
Local providers? Can they really compete with AWS and Alibaba at scale?
Not on raw technology, but on regulatory advantage, absolutely. Gartner projects sovereign cloud spending at $80 billion in 2026, with 35.6% growth. That money isn't all going to AWS or Alibaba. A significant portion is being directed to local providers through government procurement rules that mandate domestic cloud hosting for sensitive workloads.
Give me examples.
Japan is the clearest case. NTT and Fujitsu are building sovereign cloud capabilities specifically to serve Japanese government and financial sector customers who cannot use foreign providers for classified or sensitive data. NTT's 8 trillion yen investment, which we covered in our Japan AI episode, includes significant cloud infrastructure that will compete directly with AWS and Azure for Japanese enterprise customers. South Korea has Naver Cloud and Kakao Cloud, both of which benefit from Korean data residency requirements. India has GeoCloud, backed by Reliance's massive distribution network and growing rapidly. Indonesia's Telkom Indonesia operates a local cloud platform used by government agencies.
But can these local players offer the AI capabilities that AWS and Alibaba provide?
That's the key tension. Most sovereign cloud providers lack the AI infrastructure and model ecosystems that the hyperscalers offer, but they're solving this through partnerships. NTT partnered with Oracle to strengthen sovereign cloud capabilities. Geo partnered with NVIDIA for AI infrastructure. Naver developed its own Hyperclova AI models optimized for Korean language. The pattern is local cloud plus global AI partnerships, creating hybrid stacks that satisfy both sovereignty requirements and technology needs.
So the market might fragment into 3 tiers: hyperscalers for non-sensitive commercial workloads, sovereign providers for government and regulated industries, and hybrid architectures that combine both.
That's exactly the emerging structure, and here's why it matters for investors. The cloud market in Asia isn't going to be winner-take-all like it was in the US. It's going to be fragmented by country, by regulation, and by sensitivity classification. AWS might dominate commercial cloud in Singapore, but lose government workloads to GovTech's own infrastructure.
Alibaba might win Chinese-affiliated businesses in Malaysia, but face regulatory blocks for financial sector data.
The AI lock-in dimension is really important here. Multiple analysts have flagged that businesses are starting to worry about AI lock-in, where training AI models on one cloud platform makes it extremely expensive to switch.
CIO Dive and Computer Weekly both reported on this trend. Companies that train proprietary AI models on AWS's SageMaker or Google's Vertex AI become dependent on those platforms' specific tooling, compute architectures, and data pipelines. Migrating a trained model to a different cloud isn't like moving files. It can require retraining from scratch, which costs millions of dollars and months of time. This is why the initial cloud choice for AI workloads is so consequential. Whoever captures a company's AI training environment essentially locks them in for years.
And that's why the hyperscalers are spending billions to build local data centers now. They're not just competing for today's cloud revenue. They're competing to be the platform where Asian companies train their AI models, which determines revenue for the next decade.
The AI training lock-in is the real prize. Cloud computing has always had switching costs, but AI amplifies them by an order of magnitude. The hyperscaler that captures the most AI training workloads in Asia during 2026 and 2027 will have a structural advantage that compounds for years.
Action items. How should investors and business professionals navigate the Asian cloud war?
3 specific actions. First, track the hyperscaler CapEx commitments in Asia as a percentage of their global CapEx, because this ratio tells you how seriously each company prioritizes the region. AWS has committed roughly $24 billion across India, Malaysia, and Thailand. Compare that to the total hyperscaler CapEx forecast of over $400 billion globally for 2026. If the Asia share increases in 2027 guidance, the competitive intensity is rising. Track the quarterly earnings calls of Amazon, Microsoft, and Alphabet for commentary on Asia cloud revenue growth rates. If any one of them reports Asia growing faster than 40% year over year, it signals that the investment is generating returns and will likely accelerate. Also watch for any new country launches, particularly in Vietnam, the Philippines, or Bangladesh, which are the next tier of high-growth markets.
Second,
for any business making cloud platform decisions in Asia, evaluate the AI lock-in dimension before committing to a provider. This is the most consequential technology decision a company will make in 2026, and most companies are not thinking about it strategically enough. If you train AI models on AWS SageMaker, you're effectively committing to AWS for the lifecycle of those models. Before choosing, ask 3 questions. First, what are the data residency requirements for your industry in each country you operate in? Second, which AI model ecosystem, OpenAI via Azure, Google Gemini, or Alibaba Qwen, best serves your language and use case needs? And third, what is the migration cost if you need to switch providers in 3 years? If you can't answer all 3, you need a cloud strategy review before signing multi-year contracts.
and third,
Monitor Alibaba Cloud's market share in Southeast Asia as the leading indicator of whether Chinese cloud infrastructure follows the same trajectory as Huawei 5G. Alibaba Cloud is currently 4th in Southeast Asia, behind AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. If they move to 3rd or 2nd within the next 18 months, driven by their pricing advantage and Qwen AI ecosystem, it will trigger the same geopolitical debate we saw with Huawei. Will the U.S. pressure Southeast Asian governments to restrict Chinese cloud providers for sensitive workloads? Track any U.S. government statements about Chinese cloud security risks, any ASEAN regulatory developments around cloud provider eligibility for government contracts, and Alibaba Cloud's own announcements about new customers in regulated industries like banking and healthcare. The moment a major Southeast Asian bank migrates to Alibaba Cloud, the geopolitical alarm bells will ring.
The big picture takeaway is that the cloud war in Asia isn't just about technology or pricing. It's about who controls the infrastructure where AI models are trained, where sovereign data is stored, and where the digital economy operates. And unlike the US market, where the answer was simply AWS, Azure, and Google, in Asia, the answer is going to be different in every country.
And that fragmentation is the defining feature. Asia's cloud market will be the most complex, most regulated, and most geopolitically contested cloud market in the world. The companies and investors who understand that complexity will be the ones who navigate it successfully. There won't be one winner in Asia. There will be many.
And if you want the full breakdown of hyperscaler investment by country, the sovereign cloud spending data, and the AI lock-in analysis, we publish a free daily newsletter at asiatechmacro.substack.com.
In our next episode, we're going to look at how Asian gaming companies are quietly becoming AI leaders. From Tencent and NetEase using game engines for AI simulation, to Nexon and Krafton's generative AI strategies, gaming and AI are converging in ways that most investors haven't noticed yet.
That's going to be a fun one. Thanks, everyone.
Stay data-driven. Bye.